Now, originally, I had hoped to do an entire show just postulating, theorizing, exploring the idea of a Corsair. And unfortunately, like they say in the military, no plan survives first contact with YouTube commenters. So we are going to carry on and do the Corsair idea in a little bit, a little later in the episode. But first off, I kind of wanted to deal with the comment regarding would I own a Crack-Hen or Crack-Hen? No. Not because I have, doubts about CIG's ability to deliver the ship or anything like that. There's a couple of reasons. Reason number one is that by the end of September, hopefully, fingers crossed, I will be completely out of the production pipeline. And I'm happy with that. Every ship that I own is basically done. And so I don't really feel like trading that in at all. Ever. Going through the last 4 or 5 years with this. I mean, I've talked about this before. I was the guy when Star Citizen was announced. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye on that, but I don't think I'm gonna throw in quite yet. And it wasn't actually until winter of 2014 that I actually said, yeah, I'll get a Cutlass pack. And then I kind of, and the rest was history, as I'm sure many of you can relate to that. But the idea of having to go back into the production pipeline and waiting for my ship, obviously I very much sympathize with the people who are in that position, but being on the cusp of totally getting out of that is something that I'm more than happy with. Being able to move forward and at least explore the various ships that I have and explore different ideas I have about how to fit them, how to equip them, and what the possibilities with those ships are. I'm kind of somebody who has to get moving. I don't like when something's like, oh, it's off on the horizon and you don't have to worry about it until then. I like to just get things moving as quickly as possible. So to have everything in my hands and to be able to a certain extent start that work, I'm very excited for that prospect. And so, yeah, I don't think that I would personally wait for a ship of that size. I mean, depending on when CIG implements it, it could be wildly popular and they might say, hey, you know what, there's a lot of people who bought this ship. We can maybe score some easy points here by kind of pushing this thing right up in the production pipeline. Saying there's a reason for it. So, yeah, I don't think so. The other reason that I wouldn't get it is because obviously I am who I am, and owning big ships is enough of a detriment to me. Adding another one that would be kind of like, I mean, if it does end up being kind of like a mobile base or a mobile truck stop in space or something like that, I would, I would be a little too visible, a little too stationary, and a little too static for my own comfort. The bigger the ships are, generally, I kind of look for speed. There are certain ships, obviously, like the Reclaimer, that are not exactly speed demons, but I feel that the Reclaimer represents a compromise, but the Reclaimer does have a plan B. It always has had a plan B. Just about every ship in my lineup is either a plan A or a plan B ship, and there's the way my account once again is kind of built out with my buyback tokens is depending on how the game kind of shakes out. I can move things around. I wish we had more buyback tokens per quarter, CIG, but I can shift things around and shift ideas and move into different types of fleet configuration depending on what seems to work and what seems to be the best idea. And then the ships that I may want down the road, I can just take ships that are down the road ships and put them into the main line and then take ships out of the main line and put them in the down the road sort of thing. Whatever, best works for me is generally the plan. So yeah, I don't really think that the Crack-Hen for me would be a good idea, because there's obviously a few people who have expressed an interest in my corpse. So, why make the target overly big? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I do like the idea. I think that it's a strong idea with some very strong possibilities. Me owning one, probably not. Now, as for the Corsair. Now, obviously, the Corsair, they kind of described it as a ship roughly the size of a Connie, that sort of thing, but it was more 3 turrets rather than 2, and it was kind of focused on going around and delivering these broadsides with the turrets. I would be probably a little bit more in favor of a 2 upper, 1 lower turret configuration, so you could still get at least 2 turrets forwards, 2 turrets rear, that sort of thing, and not just, and then have 3 turrets for broadside, so broadside is strong, but it's not, to have to engage towards the rear, towards the front isn't crippling. If you put all 3 turrets on one point on the ship, like all across the back or all across the belly of the ship, you could run into situations where you're only able to engage with 1 turret. So I would kind of do like a 2-1 configuration that way. I think that the Corsair kind of explores a weakness in the way CIG has lined up their ships. In the mid-range, not quite capitals, so at the upper range of that being something like the Hammerhead, because it's not a capital. Yes, I know. And maybe starting from, say, the Redeemer. Well, no, let's start from a ship that's actually going to be built. The Vanguard. So in that area, there's a lot of profession ships. There's a lot of ships built around professions, or there's a lot of ships that are kind of multi-role, like the Connie, that are, they do have combat capabilities, most certainly, but that's not their primary focus. Oh, let's have a little cargo, let's have a little luxury lounge, let's do this, let's do that, let's do a little mining, that sort of thing. I think that there is room in that area for a strictly combat focused ship. And I'm not talking about just the Hammerhead or just the Vanguard at maybe the bottom end of that, Hammerhead at the top end of that, in that range. I think there's room for more strictly combat focused ships in that, both real world and virtual world price range. And I'm surprised that that is not an area that has been exploited more. To a certain degree, I'm kind of not a fan of the idea of more capital ships. As much as we were just talking about the Crack-Hen, I'm not really a fan of that. I want something that's more within reach of more of the players, something that drives more interest to in more of the players. And I feel that something like the Crack-Hen is a cool idea, and it's certainly I believe there's going to be room for that ship eventually, but I would like to see more ships that are more attainable. I would like to see more filler material in that area, and strictly speaking, I'd like to see it be combat focused. And I'm not just talking about for piracy, I'm talking about for anything, for police duties, that sort of things. Light to medium patrol craft. Not quite someone who wants to go all the way to a Polaris, but someone who maybe wants to exist somewhere in the middle. Maybe someone doesn't want to buy a Hammerhead. Maybe they want to be in that kind of, that weird area where there are ships, the Retaliator technically, but something not designed around kind of going in, firing, and then that's it. Something that's more designed around a sustained combat role. So I'd like to see more in that area. I'd like to see more ships in that area. And I think the Corsair is both the real and metaphorical vehicle for that. But I would like to see I would like to see RSI do a strictly combat focused Connie. You know, I would like to see a combat-focused Carrack. You know, I remember a while ago when I was talking about the Carrack, and a whole bunch of people freaked out on me. They're like, the Carrack is a military ship. And the point that I was trying to get across is I would like to see a Carrack that is redone not for scanning, not for exploration, but a ship that is strictly built for combat on the Carrack hull. And people just lost their shit. It is a military ship. It is a military ship. True, it is a military ship. And as much as, say, a hospital ship for wounded troops could be considered a military ship, but it is not, strictly speaking, a combat vessel. And that's what I would like to see. Like, I would like to see the Carrack reimagined as a combat vessel, as a separate version to the one that we have, or are going to have eventually. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see more exploration in that range, and so the Corsair kind of being the first step into that. I would like to see more attainable ships in that area that aren't, strictly speaking, profession based and are more combat focused, because I think that that is an area that is, in my estimation, supremely lacking. Anyways, so that is my thoughts and feelings on the Corsair. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.